Good morning, Virgo. Um, Predicted pain is control mechanism. When content tells you that you'll be hurt when you find out about something, when it promises you'll cry, when it warns about devastation approaching, it's not preparing you. It's not protecting you. It's activating your threat response to keep you engaged because humans are wired to prioritize threat information. When we're told something painful is coming, we need to know what it is, need to assess the danger, need to prepare ourselves. So we watch, we listen, we stay engaged with content that's threatening us with emotional pain. And the content creator benefits, gets your attention, gets your engagement, gets algorithmic boost from your fear-driven interaction, while you get what? Heightened anxiety about vague threat that probably doesn't exist. Can you see the asymmetry in this exchange? You're being farmed for engagement through manufactured distress. Because here's what you will cry is designed to do. It's pre-installing emotional response. It's telling you how you should feel about information you haven't even received yet. And that pre-installation, it works. When you do encounter information after being told it will devastate you, you're primed to have exactly that response. You experience it as more painful than you would have if you'd encountered it without the emotional framing. So the prediction doesn't see your emotional future. It creates your emotional future by telling you what to feel before you have the information to assess for yourself. That's not prophecy. That's psychological manipulation. Are you having authentic responses or performing responses you've been told to have? Learn to distinguish between the two, because I need to address what you're probably feeling right now. Anxiety, dread, need to know what this is about. Fear that something terrible exists that you're unaware of. And that emotional state, it's exactly what the content is designed to create. Because once you're in that state, you're hooked. You need resolution. You need to find out what the terrible thing is. But here's what actually happens. The terrible thing is either completely generic, someone betrayed you, someone lied, someone doesn't feel what you thought they felt, or it's so vague that you fill in specifics from your own fears and then you think the reading was accurate because you've done the work of making vague threat match your specific anxieties. But the reading didn't see anything specific about your life. It just activated your anxiety and let you personalize the threat. What are you afraid you'll find out? Notice that fear existed before the content. The content just activated it. Because here's what this kind of content does to your nervous system. It keeps you in chronic low-level stress, keeps you scanning for threats, keeps you braced for pain that might never arrive. And that chronic activation, it's exhausting. It depletes your resources. It makes everything feel more threatening than it actually is. It keeps you in survival mode when you should be in growth mode. So you're not just wasting time consuming this content. You're actively training your nervous system in dysfunctional patterns that make life harder. And for what? For engagement metrics that benefit the creator while harming you? How much of your mental bandwidth is consumed by content-generated anxiety? Calculate the cost, honestly, because I want to talk about what when you find out implies. It suggests there's information that exists, but that you don't currently have access to. Information that will be revealed at some point. information that will devastate you when it surfaces. But think about that logically. If if the content creator knows what this information is, why not just tell you? Why the dramatic warning without the actual content? Because the warning generates more engagement than the information would. Because keeping you in suspense, keeping you anxious, keeping you coming back to find out what the terrible thing is that's more valuable to the creator than just telling you. So the warning isn't about helping you, it's about keeping you hooked, keeping you dependent on the content source for information about threat they're manufacturing. Can you recognize when you're being deliberately kept in anxiety for someone else's benefit? This is crucial for protecting yourself from exploitation, because here's what people who actually care about your well-being do. They don't threaten you with pain. They don't warn you about devastation without providing actual information or context. If they genuinely have information you need, they share it clearly. They give you what you need to make informed decisions. They don't play games with your anxiety. So when content withholds information while promising it will devastate you, when it creates suspense around your potential pain, that's not care. That's not guidance. That's manipulation. And you can choose not to participate. You can close the content. You can refuse to be held hostage by manufactured threats. You can recognize that your life is probably fine and that this is just content trying to exploit your vulnerabilities. Are you strong enough to walk away from the threat? Test yourself by closing this and seeing what actually happens, because I also need to address people who regularly consume this content. If you're constantly clicking on warnings about pain, you'll experience devastation approaching, things you'll cry about when you find out. You're training yourself in catastrophic thinking. You're reinforcing belief that threat is constantly imminent. You're creating anxiety that has no protective function, and that pattern, it's affecting your actual life, making you more anxious, more vigilant, more convinced that disaster is always approaching. That's not spiritual awareness. That's trauma response being triggered and reinforced by content that profits from your distress. So if you recognize that pattern, if you see that you keep seeking out warnings about pain, stop, break the cycle, get support for the underlying anxiety that makes these threats feel compelling. Because the answer isn't in the content. The answer is in healing whatever wound makes you vulnerable to this manipulation. Can you recognize when consumption pattern is symptom of deeper issue? Address the root, not just the behavior. Because here's what actually happens when devastating information gets revealed. Usually it's not that devastating. Usually it's just normal relational disappointment or confirmation of something you already suspected, or information that's unpleasant but manageable, and you handle it, you process it, you make decisions based on it, you move forward. Because humans are resilient, we handle difficult information all the time. We survive betrayals and disappointments and revelations. We adapt and continue. So the idea that you'll be destroyed by information, that you'll cry uncontrollably when you find out, that you'll be devastated beyond recovery, that's catastrophizing. That's overestimating the threat and underestimating your capacity to handle it. And content that encourages catastrophizing, that reinforces belief that you can't handle what's coming. That's not serving you. That's weakening you. That's making you more fragile when you need to be building resilience. What if you're actually strong enough to handle whatever information exists? Consider that you might be more capable than fear-based content suggests. Because ultimately, here's the truth, there probably isn't some devastating information waiting to destroy you. There probably isn't some secret that will make you cry uncontrollably when revealed. Life has challenges, has disappointments, has unpleasant surprises, but mostly life is just normal. And you handle it, just like you've handled everything else. So content threatening you with pain, promising you'll be devastated, warning you about crying, it's not seeing your future, it's exploiting your fear, it's manufacturing crisis to generate engagement, and you can opt out. You can refuse to participate. You can recognize that your life is probably fine and that manufactured threats serve the content creator, not you. So close this. Stop consuming warnings about pain. Stop letting content terrorize you with vague threats. And start living in reality where most things are manageable, where you're more resilient than you believe, where devastating revelations are rare and you handle them when they occur. That's actual life, not the fear-based simulation that content creates. Choose actual life. Choose reality. Choose your own assessment of threat over content manufactured anxiety. Because nothing is coming to destroy you. You're fine. Life continues. And the only thing you'll cry about is how much time you wasted being afraid of threats that never materialized. Stop giving fear-based content that power over you. You're stronger than they need you to believe you are. Remember that. Live from that. Choose from that. Everything else is just noise designed to profit from your vulnerability. Turn it off. Walk away. Reclaim your peace. That's your power. Use it. Fear-based content profits from your anxiety while contributing nothing to your well-being. There is no devastating information. There is no impending pain. There is just content exploiting your vulnerabilities for engagement. Close it. Walk away. Your life is fine. You're stronger than the threats suggest. Stop letting strangers terrorize you for clicks.